welcome to this evening. My name is Anika Kulander, your host for this segment. Now, today we have a very interesting topic for you. We're going to talk about forgiveness. So remember to share our program with all of your friends and subscribe to watch for free in 2021. Now, to welcome our interviewee, someone very wise to talk about the topic, please welcome Dr. Foojan Zeine.
Hi, Anika. How are you? Can you hear me?
Hi, I'm great. It's nice to talk to you again. Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. Great to be with all of you again and everyone who's with us.
Oh, the connection is very bad.
Oh, well.
I'm sorry. I think there's a bit of a lag.
Yes, there is a lag. Can you hear me, or should I just continue going on?
Yes, I can hear you better now.
Okay. Yes, we're talking about forgiveness. And I think that this is a concept that, Anika, everybody at one point in their life are going to face, which is, how can I forgive? And I think that when something is not that hard, or something that has happened, and we love the person, or we don't kind of question their intention, and somehow we see that somebody is aware that they've done something and they really got their impact, that how it has affected us, we can forgive them better. But sometimes when we think that the person intended to harm us, or did not necessarily take responsibility for the way they harmed us, and that they might still do that, or that they come up with excuses about why they did what they did, and if we felt powerless, and if we felt that our boundaries were crossed, we were belittled, and any of those experiences, we were shamed, any of those experiences, we kind of hold on to those experiences, and we really want them to feel us, know how they have hurt us, and be apologetic for them. Unfortunately, many times we're not going to have that chance for the person who we have been hurt by, that they have the ability to see us or understand what they've done, and not come from the place of just justifying themselves, but actually coming back and, allowing us to share with them and how it was hurting us, and then for them to be able to be compassionate. Most of the times people can't do that. So then we are left with this kind of resentment that, more than anything, it bothers us. It affects us. So the point, I think, is how to be able to get over this and then move on to the next level.
So when we don't have access to the other person to have this kind of conversation, this kind of deep heart to heart where we get to express our feelings, and what is the process for you and yourself to be able to get rid of or to move through these hurt feelings, or of a bruised ego, or of not feeling seen or understood, or of feeling wrong, that makes it that hinder us to forgive? What can we do as a process? How can we go through it?
Well, one of the things is for us to understand what's going on with me, and to observe myself, to know how I'm being. Can you hear me? How I'm thinking, and how I feel, and how I behave, and what are the things that I made it mean for myself. For example, if something happened and I thought I was hurt, what actually happened? So, for example, I was talking to a friend, and she said that, one of my friends, we were both looking for a job, and I told her everything, and I was open, and she didn't, and then suddenly I found out that she's going for the same job, and I feel betrayed. It was okay if she went for the job. It was more upsetting to me that she lied to me and she wasn't going to tell me that. So then it's like, okay, well, she felt betrayed, and she was going to end the relationship and really not go forward and never forgive her again. So the conversation is like, well, what are you making me mean? What are you making it mean for yourself and the friendship? And part of it had to do with her thinking that this is intentional, so I cannot trust her intention. So then the question is, how can you be with someone who you decide that this person is not for you, and how are you going to forgive them?
Mhm.
It's the meaning that you're creating for yourself is the most important factor. I think we make a meaning and we generalize it, like all women are like that. I'm never going to do this. All friends are like that. Or all everybody's like that, and then somehow we hold ourselves back. If I know that someone is intentionally harming me, obviously I wouldn't want to be their friend. But how can I forgive them? Maybe it's more of forgiving myself first, because most of the time when I feel upset that somebody's done something to me, most people come back and say, why didn't I see that before? How come I was blindsided? How come, I couldn't catch it before it happened? So one aspect of it is forgiving myself in order for me not to have that information and be okay with somebody for not having it. The other part is, can I forgive someone? Um, as if I can come back and rise above it and actually have compassion for them, to have an understanding of why they would do something. How come they were hurt? Why is it that they wanted to hurt me? Did they actually do want to hurt me? Or is it more like they're just living their life and I have expectations that they haven't fulfilled for me? Can I be the bigger person? Can I allow them to just kind of like be who they are? Can I allow them being? So those are the way that we kind of go back and rise above all of it. The third one is, how is it beneficial for me to keep this kind of resentment, this type of anger
Mhm.
and separateness, because I'm the one who's holding it and it affects my life. So that way, in order to take care of myself, is more of setting the boundaries. If I need to communicate something, you communicate it. If I need to clear something, if I need to negotiate something, set my boundaries, I can. If based on what you said, the person is gone and I can't do anything about it, then I can write a letter to them. Obviously, there's nowhere to be found or sent, but to start writing what I would have said to them if I could have, if I had the opportunity. And what is it that I really wanted to hear from them? And I can do that in my own imagination and allow myself to heal, and see what I learned from this episode. What did I gain from this experience, and take on that experience and utilize it for later in my life as I move forward, as a strength, as something that I gained experience, learned it, and from here on, I will utilize it as a good strength to move forward. So, the other aspect of forgiveness is also, um, if you imagine someone still alive and somewhere there that they can either harm you or that you're waiting for them, bargaining for the scenario so that they can be uh, to be there and hear you finally. And it's almost like I've heard it from a lot of people. As long as the person has not figured out they've hurt me, they come and apologize. Or as long as they haven't been hurt as much as I have, I'm not going to release this. Well, that might be a long time and that might be never. And you're going to hold on that resentment and be upset. So, what if you thought, if this person no longer was on the face of the earth, would you let go then? Because there's no more
Mhm.
bargaining. You can't wait for that person to catch on. You can't wait for that person to come back and apologize. And you can't even wait for that person to experience more pain, because obviously, like, you imagine them. Okay, if they're dead, what's going to happen? That way also some of the people release it. I've noticed many people who forgave their parents finally after they were gone. They forgot, they forgave people that they held on grudges until the day that they actually passed away. We don't have to wait until somebody passes away. If I said I no longer want them in my life, it appears they've passed away from my life, from my world, from my earth. They're no longer there as far as I'm concerned. So if that's analogy you could use, or an imaginative concept you could use, then could you let them go? So a lot of the aspect of forgiveness is releasing your expectation from that person, releasing the threat that you're holding on to them. It's more like just let them be in the world. And if you don't no longer want them in your world, then that's fine. But if somebody's there and you can't really say bye-bye and I don't want to have you, such as a family member, your mate, your child, your best friend, somebody that they're still very, easy, they're important to you and you don't want to let them go, but you
Mm-hmm.
hurt and it's hard for you to forgive them. In those relationships that are important
Mm-hmm.
for you, it matters in how you communicate and create the setup for you to communicate in a way that you share your hurt and pain, not necessarily in a way that you're blaming them or you're attacking them, but allowing them to see your
Mm-hmm.
vulnerability and allowing them to know how hurt you are. And to create a structure for the future so that those hurt will no longer be there. So you set your boundaries and you create those
Mm-hmm.
negotiations of this is how I would like for our relationship to be in the
Mm-hmm.
future. And this is how I want you to communicate to me, and so on. This way you could begin to create
Mm-hmm.
some sort of a safety with that person actually.
Mm. And also, it can be really, really great to potentially deepen a relationship with somebody, and it can be seen as an opportunity for you guys to get to know each other more if that other person is willing to hold that space for you to listen to your feelings and try and understand and maybe share their own perspective and maybe something that drove them to an action that you perceive to be hurting you. So in a way, even though these conversations may be difficult, it could be a huge potential for healing and for deepening a relationship if you want that person in your life.
Absolutely, because and I think that authentic conversation really helps for people to get connected. Many times, Annika, people are
Hmm.
not necessarily um, wanting to hurt you; they're just being themselves, and
Hmm.
they might not even know that you had those types of expectations, or that
Hmm.
they are set in some behaviors that are destructive, and they're not really realizing how those destructive behaviors are hurting and pain, kind of creating pain for somebody else. And sometimes it does take us
Hmm.
to become a mirror to them and say, ouch, like, don't do that because it hurts. And this is the way it hurts. And
Hmm.
and to
Hmm.
have the courage to state what it hurts and how it does, and how maybe they're also doing this in different areas of their life, in different types of relationship. And if we can create that type of an open, authentic, again, non-blaming but sharing your experience with the person, you might create the safety position for them also to take responsibility and accountability for the way they've done something or the impact that they created. And absolutely it could create growth for both of the people, and coming together, and the in between, the relationship that they have together.
Hmm. And in that way, it creates more trust too. Like if I trust another person to tell me when I'm doing something, then I know that I can live my life without constantly worrying, oh, am I hurting this person? Because as someone who, like, I feel like I'm deeply empathic, so I'm always looking out for other people. But when someone tells me something, I actually find it's a huge sense of relief because I don't feel like I'm responsible for making sure they're okay. Like I, and I know this is caretaking or whatever, but then I trust that they know how to set boundaries and they will take care of themselves and bring things to me to process if they need to. So in a way, it's very, very healthy thing to do.
What you're saying is important, which I hear it as I can be strong enough that people don't have to worry about taking care of my emotion. They can trust me that I'm an
Mm-hmm.
adult enough to handle it. And that trust creates an adult to adult relationship where they don't have to see me as a
Mm-hmm.
fragile person that needs to be taken care of. They know that the
Mm-hmm.
strength of the relationship and my ego strength, where I can take care of myself. And when people don't have to necessarily, take care of each other's emotion, they can be compassionate for each other, but not be responsible for each other's emotion. Then there's this freedom
Mm-hmm.
in the relationship for each person to just be who they are and check out. And if
Mm-hmm.
they miss a step, to actually be able to clean up, and make a mistake. I hurt you by mistake. I pick up the phone and clean up. I was talking to someone and I was just, kind of
Mm-hmm.
like setting my own boundaries about some of the programs that I was doing and the panels that someone had asked me to come to the panel. And I said, okay, but didn't take the
Mm-hmm.
responsibility of checking everybody else that was on the panel. And I was saying to them, I just want to make sure that whatever is happening, that people who are on the panel were on the same par and converse about the same things from a scientific place. And then, the other person called me and said, oh, that person was offended by you saying that. And I said, I'm sorry. I thought I took responsibility for, I'm the one who didn't check, but I will call and apologize
Mm-hmm.
anyway. And I called her and I said, I'm so sorry that somebody told me that you felt upset with what I said. And so first of all, I apologize because that's not my intention at all to put you down or say anything that was inappropriate. And I was actually taking responsibility for me for not checking, and I was just actually honoring you and wanting to trust your word and find out that this was how it was going. And we had a great conversation, and she reassured me, and then all went well. But my point is that when I found
Mm-hmm.
out, whether it was through her or another person, that I might have hurt someone, it was my duty, my
Mm-hmm.
responsibility to pick up the phone and clean it up immediately and clean it up and
Mm-hmm.
clear it. That if I did hurt you, that wasn't
Mm-hmm.
my. And I think this way of taking responsibility and being open so people can share, Fujan, you just hurt me. Like, that was rude. Or why'd you do that? If I
Mm-hmm.
can be safe enough for people to tell
Mm-hmm.
me, then it's safe enough for me to also turn around and say, whoops, I'm sorry. That's not what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you
Mm-hmm.
take responsibility about what they've done. Like you say, trust gets created, deepening of bonding gets
Mm-hmm.
created. And people don't have to worry
Mm-hmm.
that I will hurt them and not see them, because they know if by any chance, first of all, I wouldn't be intentional. Two, even if I do it intentionally, that I would go back and listen to them and hear them and heal whatever it was that had happened. So creating that
Mm-hmm.
type of
Mm-hmm.
strength from ourselves for other people is it creates
Mm-hmm.
smooth type of relationships. Like they're clear with you. Like they know where you're coming from, and they don't have to guess. No longer
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. Exactly, exactly. And everyone has different trigger points, you know? You never really know what someone has been through when you say something or do something that might affect them. So when you build a community of people, like I live in a conscious living community where we all take authentic learning or authentic relating classes and MVC and stuff like that. When you live in a community of people where everyone is, you know, working on their past and trying to be better, and you trust that everyone can communicate, it really does add an extra layer of safety and of freedom, like you say. So, for
Absolutely.
someone
I think it
who
allows
might not be comfortable, hmm?
I said it also, like you said, it
Sorry, what
allows
was that?
for growth, because if I don't have to worry
Hmm.
then I can concentrate on growth and for us to move together and both grow. But if I have to constantly worry about somebody else and worry about my actions, I'm kind of like
Hmm.
limited in this space and don't grow. So I love it that you live in that conscious community where people are committed to consistently be authentic and work on themselves and allow an adult relationship for it to foster for everyone to grow.
Hmm. So for someone who may not have this sort of practice or where these conversations may not be the norm, how can they, because it takes a tremendous amount of courage, because even to have the conversation, you need to trust that the other person is going to actually listen and not try to defend themselves and cause more hurt. So what can they do to kind of prep for that conversation? Um,
Well, I look at the worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is that they'll
mhm,
never know, or you say something and they get offended, and that you stay miserable
mhm.
for the rest of your life. And I don't think that that's suitable. So it's more like, well, what is the another
Mhm,
alternative? Because the way that I think is, I need to take care of myself and my emotions immediately. And the way that I would take care of
mhm,
myself is to be able to set up a structure to be heard. Now, if I get that that person cannot hear me on a face-to-face level, because sometimes people react and it's just not, suited for them. They can't sit with you and hold your emotion. They're not capable of it, or
mhm,
not don't have the skills to do it. And they might from the first word
mhm,
they might get offended and their listening gets shut down. So if you know that the person
mhm,
cannot do it, if you think they can, try it anyway. If you think they can't, yeah, I'm not going to put myself in that position. I will do it in writing, because people have a different way of reading and not being able to kind of like get, even if they have the reactions, they'll read it through and they'll have it, so they'll come back to it. So then it could be that I would
mhm,
write down everything that I want, and then squish it and throw it away, and then write it again, and then squish it and throw it away, and then write it again, and I write it until
mhm,
I get it that it's not that I'm blaming someone. I can come from an I statement, and coming from what my experience was, and not attack them that you did this or you wanted to do this. Is more like, when I saw you do this, when I heard you say this, this is what it meant for me, and this is how it hurt
mhm,
me. This is how I interpreted it, and it made me feel this way and this way, and I would like to request from you that if you one we could converse and clear it up, and so that I know what you really meant and what your needs were, and for me to let you know that if you ever wanted to share with me any of these things, this way would work better for me if you shared with me in this way, and you will let them know what way.
mhm,
So
mhm,
in this, and you might
mhm,
be able to send this as an email, as a letter, as a text, but after you kind of like vomited out all of your anger and everything that was in you, and then come back as like, what do I need? And also take responsibility that whatever else at
mhm,
this point that I thought, it was my issue, it was my way of thinking about it, and that person might not even thought about it. And even if they say, yes, I was so hurt
mhm,
by you that I said that because I wanted to hurt you. I was like, well, I am hurt. So definitely
mhm,
you got what you wanted. I am hurt. But it seems like you thought I hurt you
mm,
first. So can you share with me so I can clear that up in how you think I have hurt you?
mhm,
Usually when you look at that and say, I apologize and I'm sorry for whatever happened, and then whatever the story was, then it's much easier for them to also say, well, yeah, I'm sorry too, that I did this or did that. So you're right that it takes the courage, but what
mhm,
would motivate us to be courageous? The need and the desire to be free of constantly thinking about this
mhm,
and hurting yourself. So someone has hurt you, clean
mhm,
it up, but don't end up hurting
mhm,
yourself
mhm.
all day long with the thought of somebody else hurting you. So I hope that that's a good enough motivation
Definitely.
to bring us into that communication and cleaning up.
Yeah, definitely. I also like this idea of making the request, as you mentioned earlier, because I think sometimes maybe people go in wanting to share their feelings, but don't think about what they need or what they want from the other person because that burning desire to just be heard. But I think it's quite a productive thing to make a request of the other person. So that way, in the future, if something similar happens, they know what to do. They know what you're asking them to do, and they know how to solve it. So that's
Yeah.
quite a wise concept. All right, we have a couple of minutes left. Is there anything you'd like to add or you want people to know about
Hello from
forgiveness?
control room. Hello, 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 Dr. Foojan. Hello, Anika.
Hi, Amir.
This is Amir from control room. Thank you. It was great. And
Mhm.
we have a question from one of our viewers. And he asked why some people cannot forgive others. Thank you.
I think that we
Okay,
hold
so that was
on.
Amir from the control room. Okay.
Yeah, I think that the reason people cannot forgive is because they hold on to that part of themselves that has become a victim of it. And sometimes throughout our life, we have become victim, and we hold on to that identity because sometimes it's comfortable, it's known, although it's very uncomfortable. But sometimes when something is known to you, you kind of like hold on to that type of an identity. Sometimes people hold on to it as an actual identity, like I'm a martyr now. And I can go along with people
Mm,
and really get a lot of compassion from other people that, oh, there's something wrong with me, and see what people do to me. And then other people will come back and give us compassion. Oh, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, they're bad. They're bad. So some people use it as attention seeking. Some people use it as the martyr concept. Some people have it as that's the only way that I've ever known myself to be. And I don't even know how not to be a victim. Like the other way has never been shown to me. When I saw my mother and father, like one was a victim and one was a villain. And if the only two ways of being is either a
mm,
victim or a villain, and I'm choosing not to be a villain, then I'll choose to be a victim and I'll hold on to that. So it could be any of these matters that people just won't forgive. I've had people that say that until I get my revenge, I'm not letting go. So it's more of I'm right and you
mm,
made me feel this small. And until I make you feel that small, I'm not going to let go. So these are many of the reasons that people just won't let go. However, again, you're the one who's suffering. The one person in 1 second did something to you. And from there on, years after years after years, you're the one who's carrying it and hurting yourself. And I just don't think that's fair to you to
mm,
be able to do that. And it doesn't hurt them if you don't forgive them. It just hurts you. Because if it's somebody that is out
mm-hmm,
there and doesn't even know or doesn't care, you're not hurting them. Doesn't matter that you're angry, not to them, but it matters to you. If you
mm-hmm,
are with someone in a relationship and because you're hurt and you're not forgiving them, that you're consistently angry and abusing them, well, then guess what? Now you are the villain. So you can't really be the victim of it because now you've turned yourself to a villain, and you're hurting other people. So
mm,
that's again, but you must
mm-hmm,
be hurt. So as soon as a person knows that they have the right not to be in pain, the same way, if you
mm,
get a bone, you want to do everything to heal it, and you don't. You could say to yourself, "I don't deserve to have this pain for the rest of my life." I also say to you, you don't deserve to have a psychological pain for the rest of your life. And some of these things are really easy to
mm,
to handle when you gain the skills.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank you so much for that. And what I'm hearing is that by not forgiving other people, you're taking on the burden and you're actually harming yourself. So by the act of forgiving or through this process, you actually get to release some weight that you're carrying and heal. So, all right,
Absolutely.
I think that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for being here this
It
evening.
was, it was a joy being with you, Anika. It was nice to see you again. Thank you for
It's nice to see
everyone.
you again.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, thank you for watching Togetherness Media. I'm Anika Kulander, your host for this evening, and I hope you all have a happy Friday and a great weekend.
Togetherness Media. Togethernessmedia.com